Your last one. Last one.
That's typical, though. I'm usually last.
I don't know how it ended up that way. I figured we'd start with a singer and end with a singer.
Oh, okay. That works.
Then again, as Ben pointed out last week, no one's interviewed me yet.
That's true.
But that's fine. I don't want to be interviewed. I don't want you guys to know the real me.
You know what you should do? You should interview you. You should figure out how to do a
I
split,
can do that.
You know, and interview yourself.
Let's not ruin the surprise.
Yeah. Already ruined it.
It won't happen. Here, play with a starfish.
It's just...
Right. So, welcome the other singer, the co-singer. I think you sing most of the songs, don't you? Or is it just an even split?
It's pretty much an even split. If anything, I like to let her sing more.
Okay.
Than I do.
We call him Fizz. He drinks a lot of Pepsi. Fitting. You might be hearing drums. There's kids playing drums in the garage because why not? I mean, let the youth find what they want, and if they really enjoy it, heck, let them get a drum set and they can be in a band later.
They're the future.
They are the future. So, speaking of the future, let's talk about the past.
Okay.
And I would like to talk about and I think I've asked everybody this, what were your main musical influences growing up that kind of brought you to where you are today?
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny because I grew up in a very strict religious household.
Oh, so Striper?
No.
Okay.
No, definitely not. No, rock and roll was not allowed. I don't want to make it sound like it was, like Amish or something, but it was just like it was just things like MTV was not okay.
Really?
Yeah, MTV was not okay. Just way too much. Because, MTV came out in the 80s, and they had there were lots of, hey, let's get some scantily clad girls in the videos and all that kind of stuff. So it was just like, that seems pretty unwholesome. That was my parents' attitude. It seems pretty unwholesome to us. We don't think we should allow our, young, impressionable child, who, it was in the 80s. I was, single-digit age through the early double-digit ages, so they were like, a little too young for that. So I missed all of the really great stuff. The only time I ever got to hear really cool bands was on the bus, because our bus driver allowed people to bring their own music.
So
and then she would
cassette
play,
tapes,
right? Cassette tapes, and they would bring mixtapes and stuff, and then she would play them on the bus stereo.
Really?
On the way to school, because she was cool like that.
That is cool.
And so I got to hear a lot of the girls seemed to always want to bring George Michael, so I learned a lot of George Michael songs.
Hey, I know how to play.
Faith was a really big hit at that time.
I think it's the one that you gotta have faith.
Right.
Faith. I know how to play that on guitar.
It was a really big hit at that time.
We can cover that. I mean, as a rock song, it was cool.
And then also there were certainly hair bands and stuff too, and people would bring rock, but I didn't know who they were. I had no idea who they were. So it is sad, and really my first exposure to really learning who rock bands were was probably, it was in my late teens, toward the end of high school, and then by then it was the 90s, and I was so I ended up with this real weird hodgepodge of music. So my first musical influences were Christian music, and singing in church and things like that. So I was learning harmony parts early. My parents were huge fans of 50s and 60s music. So I heard a lot of things like Everly Brothers and Simon and Garfunkel, and those are the kinds of artists that I grew up on. Dan Fogelberg, CCR.
Dan Fogelberg?
No, Dan Fogelberg.
Huh. I'm thinking of somebody else.
You're thinking of John Fogerty.
John Fogerty.
From CCR. But no, Dan Fogelberg was one of my dad's favorites, and he's, kind of folk John Denver style singing, and so I grew up on a lot of Southern Baptist 4-part harmony choirs, men's choirs. I heard a lot of that stuff growing up. So and my parents listened to country nonstop, which I couldn't stand. I didn't like country at all, but I had no choice. Only child, stuck in the car. That's what they listen to. So
yeah, my dad was a DJ at a country radio station.
Really?
Back in the very early '80s, WIRE radio.
I remember WIRE.
And he used to pick us up every other weekend, and he would be on the air in the overnights. So he would pick us up, and me and my two brothers would go to the radio station with him, and he would be on the air. And in the middle of the night, he would put one of us on to like do the weather or the sports.
That's funny.
And we'd run around the radio station all night while he was on the air, and then we would sleep in one of the DJ's offices.
Sure, of course.
It was
That's
fun.
cool.
It was neat. Yeah,
that's fun. So anyway, my first love as a rock band is still my favorite band, which is Pink Floyd. Once I heard Pink Floyd, I instantly fell in love with them and their sound, and I collected every album immediately. I was dumping all the money I was supposed to be saving for college into Pink Floyd albums.
Sure.
So and that's what I did. I had collected every single one of their albums. And they're still my favorite band. But and then by then I was once I went off to college, then I was in grunge music. That was the big who was that masked man? That was the big movement when I was, because now we're talking mid-90s and Cobain had already died, so I was still behind, but I was getting into Nirvana and Pearl Jam, and all late. Everybody had already been into them forever before I came along and discovered them all, but I liked grunge a lot.
And that makes sense as to why us being the same age, the same grade, same school,
right?
Yet you gravitate more towards '90s music, and I gravitate more towards '80s music. And I always wondered, why? Because what the?
Right. Yes and no, though, because if I get in my car and I turn on Spotify, I turn on '80s rock hits. That's what I do, and that's what I want to listen to because that was still the music that was going on in the world when I was walking around as a kid. So I still recognize all of those songs, and now, of course, after years, I know all the words to most all those songs now, and some of them I knew even though I didn't realize I was learning them. Learning them. It's like, I forget who it was. It was a member of a fairly famous band who, after Tom Petty had passed, he said, I never liked Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers particularly. They weren't one of my favorite bands, yet how do I know every word to every one of his songs? It's like, that's the magic of somebody like Tom Petty who just writes really catchy too.
Now, you mentioned, or you just said, something interesting to me in the fact that you know all the words to the songs. I grew up being an instrument file. So I hardly ever paid attention to the words of songs.
Drove me crazy if I couldn't understand the words to it.
I could give two about the words. I was more interested in the songs
and how it was played.
What's the guitar riff? What's he playing there? How's he doing that drum fill? Oh, that piano part leads into this thing. I'm a instrumentalist kind of guy, not a word. Now there are songs that I Remember You by Skid Row and songs like 18 in Life and Home Sweet Home, Motley Crue that they're ballads that just know the words, but for the most part I was an instrument listener and not a lyric guy, word person, a guy that listens to the words, and it just the words that you guys have sung, it just blows my mind that you remember them, first of all, and second of all, in some of these songs that I've never played before but we're playing now, I hear you guys singing the words, I'm like, wow, I never knew that. I never knew that. And there's some bands that I'm like, I never liked that band because I didn't like the song per se, but then I hear the words and I'm like, that resonates with me, so I should have given them a chance, but it's a whole...
There's also something to, it's also true that, like the song Your Love, we do that song.
Yep.
But before we did that song, I could not have told you any line in that song other than Josie's on a vacation far away. It's the only line I knew.
Yeah. Didn't we call it Josie's song for long?
Well, somebody in the band who shall remain nameless keeps confusing the title with Jesse's Girl.
Oh, and that's probably me.
No, it's not you.
Okay. I think I do too.
And then here's another one. Steve Perry.
Steve Perry. I should have been gone.
Was it Sherry? The song Sherry? The only line I knew from that, which ironically isn't even in the opening intro, was I should have been gone. It's like the only line
I should have been gone.
Right. which is not even the opening. He doesn't
No.
sing that till later, but I don't know. It's just the only line I remembered.
Exactly. That Journey song is another one that I know a lot of words to, just because Steve Perry is one of the top 5 lead vocalists, I think.
And it's wild because, like, I mean, it's not like he's not recognized. I mean, obviously he is recognized, especially by musicians. He's very recognized as an incredible singer and an incredible artist. But it's like, he really, you know, to me, he should be named alongside somebody like Freddie Mercury.
I would say...
And he's usually not.
In my top 5, I do have Freddie Mercury as number 1. He's got, I think, the biggest range, biggest bravado. I mean, he's got Freddie Mercury.
He's the ultimate rock singer, right? It just...
Robert Plant is up there.
Well, yeah.
Just up there. Steve Perry is up there with the range, the ability, things like that. I mean, I'm sure there's much more, but those 3 stand out in my mind.
Those 3 stand out very much. And even my favorite band, Pink Floyd, singing is not their strong suit. It just isn't. I mean, they're fine. It's not like they're bad singers, but they don't stand out in singing at all. Yeah. It's the instruments where they stand out.
Oh, for sure.
And you know, but you can't replace people like Steve Perry or, you know, Robert Plant. They have.
I'm going to tell you, I went to a Journey concert with Allie last year or the year before, and her husband, and a few of us. But Journey was playing. It was that Asian fella.
Filipino guy?
Filipino, whatever he is. They found him in a karaoke bar.
Right.
Sounds a lot like Steve Perry.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have the presence that Steve Perry does. Yeah. It was like watching karaoke.
Well, and it's like Adam Lambert taking over for Freddie Mercury.
But he's not trying to be Freddie Mercury.
He's great, but you're right. He's not trying to be Freddie Mercury, and that was smart. Because you can't be Freddie Mercury. Nobody can.
No one's going to be Freddie Mercury
ever
again.
He pays the proper homage by singing the songs well and the way they're written.
Yeah.
But then puts his own... you know, emotion into it and his own, you know, tweaks here and there, and so that he's letting you know he doesn't think he's Freddie. You know, and that's important, I think, especially to diehard Queen fans. You know, it's really important that happen.
You've been playing ukulele for years now.
True.
Have you ever learned, or do you know how to play any Hawaiian songs?
None. Zero.
Why?
Well, I didn't, you know, first of all, I just thought... I saw Jake Shumbaku. I'm sorry. I apologize, Jake. I never know how to pronounce his name correctly. He's an Asian fellow who grew up in Hawaii, and he is the ukulele guru. There is no one I've ever seen in my life that plays ukulele better than him. And of course, he plays all the Hawaiian standards and all that stuff. But one thing that he did that I thought was really interesting is he plays rock music on a ukulele, and more than that, he'll play all the parts of a rock band on the same ukulele simultaneously, which is insane. So I was like, whoa. I mean, that just blew my mind, because no one really you think of Tiny Tim, you know, you know, and
that dude freaked me out.
Well, of course he did. That dude should have.
Not tiny. Really bad hair. Anyway.
But that's what people thought of when I was growing up. When you thought of ukulele, you thought of Tiny Tim.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Or Hawaiian songs.
Or just Hawaiian stuff, which they had all that. And it is a Hawaiian instrument, and it has its own Hawaiian tuning and all of those things, which they call island tuning. And there's a style of playing. The way it is meant to be played is like a flicked style with the fingertips. That's the way you're meant to play it. And then they started inventing these picks that are made of felt. And I was told, if you want to play with a pick, then you need to get these felt picks. So I did. I bought these felt picks, and I hated them. I
feel like they would catch on the strings.
I just couldn't do it. I'm sure there are lots of people that play really well with a felt pick. I couldn't do it. What are you doing? We're being stalked.
Allie's in the window. Okay, we're gonna end it right now, because Allie, the boss, is telling us to end it. Anyway, it's been fun. I hope you guys had a good slight behind the music that was interrupted quite a few times for some reason by very, very rude people.
Yeah.
Getting to know the Fizz, the second or first, whatever you call him, the co-vocalist in the band Neon Deadlights. So thanks for sitting here with me and chatting and getting a video up on my channel.
No problem.
It's fun.
Love it.
All right, talk to you later.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.